the behold your servant, behold your child, behold the weakness of the one you're calling is wrapped up and put away with the fullness of his word. Listen to this. This is John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. I want to pause there for a moment. In John 1, it's Logos. In the beginning was the whole package. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, the whole package. And the Word was God, the whole package. Not just a little word, but the whole picture. The same was in the beginning with God. Just clue in how big he is. All things were made by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it, comprehend it. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came to his own received him not. But to as many as received him, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of man, but of the will of God. If you are born again, this is a God choice. You think, well, I did this, I did that. But let me tell you something. If you're born again, it's something that God determined and God pulled off. Not of the will of man, not of the flesh, but by the will of God. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld the glory of the the only begotten Son of God, full of grace and truth. Behold, the bondslave of the Lord. May it be done unto me according to your word. The picture here is that the bondslave may be fumbling around and running in circles, but the God who is speaking to the bondslave, the God who speaks to you, rules over nations, created it all, is well able to pull it off. Let's be those who are saying, as a matter of life and death, because it is so, be it unto me according to your word. Father, be it unto me according to your word. This morning, Kathy said, pray. And this morning we just agreed that the things that God has put on our hearts is the thing that he can pull off. He's big enough to do it. The sovereign God, he whispers a word into our hearts, and he's big enough to accomplish that, plus a whole lot more. You're on, George. I was stalling just to keep...
And I wasn't paying attention. I trying to make sure that the Twitch stream is up and running because it was giving us a bit of a hard time. And so we were working on some things. Be it done unto me according to your word. Amen? And I wasn't listening to Dad, but I got little pieces, parts. Part is Rhema, and what he's saying right now. But inside of the Rhema is the fullness of the Logos, okay? And let me say, inside of you is the fullness of the Logos, okay? He dwells bodily within you, okay? Let me just say to you that the Logos, his name is Jesus, his name is Emmanuel, that is the anointed one with us, in us, Christ in us. The Logos is in you. David, I'm blank and not doing anything. Today we're going to talk about friendship with God, and we're going to do it from a couple of different perspectives. Just a couple of quick notes right up at the very top. Friendship with God is what we're about, first of all, okay? Friendship is something that you might consider to be a small thing. It's not. Friendship is a big deal. In fact, friendship is an eternal thing. We have relationships. You live beside your neighbor, okay? And that's a fine relationship, okay? Good. That is not eternal. I don't know whether you'll live beside your neighbor in eternity or not, okay? But it may or may not be. The truth of the matter is, even some major relationships that we consider very significant, like marriage, are not eternal. Jesus made it clear it's not an eternal relationship, but friendship is. So maybe you ought to make sure you're friends with your spouse. If you want it to be an eternal relationship, friendship is the thing that goes on. The marriage per se, that's a temporal thing. But friendship is eternal. We're going to see that in a lot of different ways. The scriptures clearly declare that. I'm not going to review for you. I'm sure you've seen it where Jesus said, no, you're neither married nor given in marriage. That's not an eternal thing. But even potentially other familial relationships are not eternal. There are some people that don't make it to be with you, though they were family. And you can see that in the scriptures, you can see that in regular life. But friendship with God is essential. And union with God is the center of everything that is. This morning, my mom heard these words, "O precious child, the treasure of the ages, you became one of us, so we could be one with you." So I'm just going to unpackage that. Oh, precious child. That's God talking to you, and he places such value on you personally. And then he calls you the treasure of the ages. Let me just say something to you. We look at the ages, we look at time, and we think it's a big deal, and it is. I'll tell you why it's a big deal. You. You are the reason time has any value at all. God created time so that he could put you in it. He created space so that he could put you in it. He created space and time so that he could endow it with a treasure, and that treasure is you. Oh, precious child, treasure of the ages, you became one of us so we could be one with you. See, there's a so that. He's interested in a so that. He's interested in accomplishing a so that. He created space and time so that he could put you in it so that you could be one with him, so that they could be one with you. Friendship is an eternal reality, and friendship with God is the eternal reality that we get to participate in, because it is indeed union. You don't become one with someone eternally without friendship. Friendship with God is essential. And we'll talk about it and we'll get through to it, but true love is essential to eternal friendship. Let me just tell you something. Eternal friendship is about real love. Not every marriage contains real love. Not every other relationship. Even somebody, hey, I love you, man. Yep, sure you do. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of false love out there. Have you ever run into it? I'm pretty sure you have. That's not the stuff we're talking about, but there is true, real love. And real love is the stuff of real friendship, and real friendship is the stuff of union. True, eternal union. All right, well, we're going to look at a number of places where we talk about friendship. I'm going to kind of run through quickly some of these first ones. This speaks about Abraham being friend of God. In fact, James quotes that Abraham was called the friend of God. And let me just say to you, it's 10:20. Let me just say to you that it's that Abraham being a friend of God is a significant reality, okay? Now, yes, Abraham walked with God. Yes, he talked with God. Yes, he believed God and it was counted to him as righteousness. Yes, he waited on God for long periods of time, very long periods of time. It's how it works, guys. That's how it works. You end up waiting. Abraham was a friend of God. Let me tell you something and remind you that the covenant that we're in is much more closely associated with the covenant of Abraham than the covenants of Moses, okay? We're not connected to those kinds of covenants, and we'll see that again out of Hosea, and Jesus quoting Hosea in a few minutes. But let me just say to you, the connection that the friendship that was pursued mutually by both Abraham and God, that is the kind and the type of friendship that we are in with God as well. So much value is placed in friendship. So this is 2 Chronicles verse 20. Generations and generations after Abraham. So this is, Jehoshaphat is, I don't even know. I can't remember how many generations from David, and I don't remember how many generations from David to Abraham. It doesn't matter, but I'll tell you something, it was a bunch of generations. But in this circumstance, you see Jehoshaphat is being confronted by Moab and Ammon and some Meunites, I guess. And there's just a whole huge multitude of these guys. And Jehoshaphat, as you recall, is going to put it before the Lord. And he says, I'm fearful, but eventually he's going to get to say, my eyes are on you. But he starts out this. He says, did you not, O our God, drive out the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel? And give it to the descendants of Abraham, your friend, forever. So what he's saying is, there's a friendship, and I'm reminding you, God, of this friendship. That's what he's doing. He's doing it intentionally. He's reminding God of a friendship, and a forever friendship. And then he says, oh God, will you not judge them? We're powerless before this great multitude. The prophet stands up and says, do not fear or be dismayed because of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours but God's. Tomorrow go against them, and you'll see that the Lord will do it. And the Lord set ambushes, and they all died, okay? And they went up the next morning, and it took them 3 days to loot the army that had killed itself in front of them, okay? That's the story. But the notion here that I want you to understand is that there's a friendship, and a friendship is executable, okay? There's something to it that is empowering and accomplishing. And this is the thing, friendship, that Jehoshaphat called in when he needed help from God. That's the thing he called. And indeed, friendship with God is the most powerful thing that there is in the earth realm. We fast forward to Isaiah here a little bit. And this is Isaiah just talking. And again, I put a lot of little dots in here just to be able to look at things. But let me just say, this is God speaking through Isaiah. But you, Israel, my servant Jacob, whom I have chosen, descendant of Abraham, my friend. So now, understand that again, he's invoking friendship as the reason for what follows. You are my servant, I have chosen you, I have not rejected you. Do not fear, I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, I am your God, I'll strengthen you. Those who are angry at you will be shamed and dishonored. Those who contend with you will be nothing, perish. You'll seek those who quarrel with you, but won't find them. Those who will war with you, but will be nothing and non-existent. For I am the Lord your God, who upholds your right hand, who says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Do not fear, you worm Jacob. Now, the thing I want to point out here is, he says, Abraham, he's my friend, and then he says, you worm Jacob. Now, I'm not saying that Jacob's not his friend. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm trying to say is, he says, all these descendants, you worm. That's what he says. but my friend. But my friend. And then he says, do not fear, I will help you. Your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. Behold, I have made you a new sharp threshing sledge with double edges. You will thresh the mountains and pulverize them and make the hills like chaff. You will winnow them and the wind will carry them away and the storm will scatter them. But you will rejoice in the Lord. And you will glory in the Holy One of Israel. And this is because of friendship. Okay? So I want you to get the idea here that friendship is powerful. Hey, anybody want to be my friend? I'd like to be your friend, okay? Let's be friends. Because let me just tell you something. Friendship is very powerful. And friendship is also not something, it's not something small. Friendship can be costly. But it's valuable. Abraham's friendship with God, he believed God, talked with God, walked with God. There was, in fact, a temporal reality because whatever God said, whenever God said it, Abraham wanted to do it. Did you please note this? Because it's really important to be aware of this. Whatever God said, kill your son, for example. Whatever God said. It didn't matter what it was, or how outrageous, or difficult, or foolish it sounded. Whatever God said, whenever he said it. I'm reminded of Joseph in those topics, okay? God said, hey, yeah, this chick, yeah, I got her pregnant. Yeah, right, Joseph. I mean, give me a break. That doesn't even, I mean, are you sure you heard right? God got your girl pregnant? What? How stupid. Whatever, he said. Whenever he said it. Hey, Joseph, get up right now and go to Egypt. Whenever he said it. It didn't matter when. He got up right now. In the middle of the night, he got up.
He went up and warmed up his donkey.
Got the donkey started. Got it go, and got it moving. Yeah, absolutely. He got moving immediately. Whatever God said, whenever he said it, Abraham wanted to do it. Now, let me just tell you something about friendship, and we're going to see this very clearly stated in some of Jesus' teaching in a little bit. But let me just say, it's not about slavery. It's not about demand obedience. Okay, I almost want to say it's not about obedience. Because our thought of obedience is like a slave mentality obedience, okay? It's not that. Abraham wanted to do what God wanted. You look at the story of Abraham sacrificing his son or trying to sacrifice his son at the requirement, command of God. And was this one mine? Did I steal yours? I'm sorry. I get 2 coffees today, so this is going to go for a long, long time, all right? I'm sorry, Dad. You don't want to drink after me, I don't think. Dad, just yummy. My point was this. When God told Abraham to do the thing, he didn't wait around 16 years to do it. Within a day or two, I can't remember. It might have been the very next day. But he was right on it. He wanted to do whatever God said, whenever God said it. He wanted to. This is friendship, okay? This is not slavery. There is nothing about slavery involved here, okay? If I say to Jocelyn, listen, I need to come over to your house and do a thing, could I do that? Now, this is not a command for her to be obeying. This is an opportunity for her to leverage the friendship that we have, and her heart is, I want to do what you want, George. It's not this. It's this. It's a heart laid down. It's a life laid down. So I almost don't want to say it is a command. But we misunderstand the word command then. It is an obedience, but we misunderstand the obedience, okay? Because it's a heart that says, I want to do exactly what you are wanting to do. Okay, it's a different thing. It's not a slave mentality. Understand that. Anyway, God, whatever God said, whenever he said it, Abraham wanted to do it. But let me say, that's the temporal. You can see that in the temporal. You look at that in the stories. That's the temporal part. But let me tell you, there's an eternal part. And the eternal friendship, the eternal fact of that friendship was more significant and more important even than the temporal one. Understand that. It's significant to know that. And Jesus was the seed of promise, okay? Jesus was the promised seed both with respect to Adam and with respect to Abraham. Jesus was the seed of the promise, and you and I are heirs to the promise of Abraham. Let me just say to you something. There's this nation over in the Middle East called Israel. And I'm going to tell you something. Many of them are descendants of Abraham. But let me tell you something, not like you are. You are the descendant of Abraham. You want to see peace in the Middle East? I'll tell you how to do it. Let them become true children of Abraham. When they become true children of Abraham, there will be peace in that land. And not until. When they become children by faith, children of the promise, that's us. When they become that, then there will be peace. All right, we'll just keep going here. So, Jesus spoke about friends and to his friends a number of times in the New Testament. And so we're going to view some of those. But this one is out of Luke chapter 12. He says, I say to you, my friends. Okay? Now, this is him communicating something to his friends. So understand it from the perspective of friendship. Do not be afraid of those that can kill the body and after that have no more they can do. Look, our friendship is bigger than this little time of life. Have an eternal perspective. But I warn you whom to fear. Fear the one who after he has killed has authority to cast into hell. Fear him. What he's saying to you is there's something eternal in the friendships, an eternal friendship. Be aware and constantly on top of the eternity. Number 2, be humble. This is what Jesus says. He starts talking about these guests that come to the table. And remember one of them maybe would choose a good spot and get demoted, and another would just choose the bottom, and then the host would come and promote them. Okay? There's a place of humility saying, I choose to humble myself before you and let you raise me up. Friend, move up higher. Let me just tell you something. That word right there, friend, move up higher, that is in the heart of God for every single one of you, okay? And the access point to friend, move up higher is humility. The access point is to put yourself low so that he has the place to move you up into. Friendship with God, have his eternal game plan. This is a section of the book of John that is speaking about John the Baptist. And basically some of his disciples are saying, oh, look, you know what, we got people moving over to Jesus. And what are you going to do about it? Some of your disciples are, he's sheep stealing from John. Jesus is sheep stealing from John. And John says, a man can receive nothing unless it has been given to him from heaven. You yourselves are witnesses of me. They said that I said, I'm not the Christ. And this is his testimony of himself. He says, he who has the bride is the bridegroom. That's Jesus. But the friend of the bridegroom, who stands and hears him, rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. Okay, so John is saying, I'm thrilled in Jesus. Don't talk to me about this, sheep stealing problem that you got, okay? Because it's not my problem. Not my problem. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. So this joy of mine has been made full. He's just like literally joy fulfilled. Let me just point out something very quickly. John the Baptist baptized many people. Now, the most significant of the experiences was when he baptized Jesus. That was significant. But he was called to prepare the way, okay? And he began to prophesy, and he began to say things, and he began to baptize, and he began to draw people in. And every single one of his disciples that went over to Jesus was a disciple that became fruit to John. That's true for you and me as well. Every single one of the people that you minister to and disciple that goes over to Jesus becomes fruit to you. Okay? I just want that clarity. He says here, and we're going to get to John chapter 15, where we see the underlying principles that are manifest here in John. But John says, I'm fulfilled in this joy. My joy is fulfilled because they go over to Jesus. Okay? He must increase, but I must decrease. He must increase, but I must decrease. You see the humility of John. Now let me say, John had many people following him. And the typical reality, you can see it in, Jesus' brothers with Jesus. You can see it, out there in the world. The typical reality is, hey, you got something good going. Keep that thing going. Hold on to it. That's not the perspective of friendship here, and that's not the perspective that is fruitful. John had the right perspective. Whatever I've been given, I yield to him, and now my joy is fulfilled. I must decrease and he must increase. You see, we talked a month ago about the Tower of Babel. John was not interested in building a hierarchy. John was not even wanting to become the Pope. Okay? He did not want a Pope. He wanted to baptize them, and then he wanted them to be to Jesus, connect to Jesus. And that's in fact what happened. And because of that, his joy was fulfilled. That's the same word, interestingly, as you'll fulfill the law. Made replete, complete, fully filled up, overflowingly fulfilled. It's not an obedience to it. It's not even an obedience to the joy. It's the fact that it wells up and is full. Complete and replete. Okay, that's the facts. You see the principle here. It's a principle of humility. It's not a principle of control and domination, but a principle of humility. All righty. Now we're going to talk through John chapter 15. And so I'm not even going to look at this slide that much. I'm going to rattle through it quick. But then we're going to look at the whole context of it, okay? 13, 14, and 15. John 13, Jesus says, greater love has no one than this, that one laid down his life for his friends. And I'm going to say to you, that's not an arrogant statement. He's just telling you the truth about how things are, okay? And when he says to you that there's no other way to have a greater love, I have a question for you. For whom did Jesus lay down his life? Trick question, so answer careful. For whom did he not? That's a fact. Primarily, Father. He gave his life to the purposes of he said, I do nothing on my own initiative. He literally, before he even died, laid down his life for Father. And then he died laying his life down for Father. And that is also true for Wendy and for Peter. He gave his life for them as well, okay? So thus he says, greater love has no one than this, than the one lay down his life for his friends. This wasn't an arrogant statement. This was an invitation. you also have the opportunity to lay your life down for Father and for your friends on the earth realm. Both. You are my friends if you do what I command you. This is the literal translation of that. You shall be my friends whenever you may be doing or creating whatever I am directing you. Okay, so there's this friendship that happens whenever and whatever he's doing. Okay, that I'm creating. That's what he's up to. But the very next verse says, no longer do I call you slaves. So please don't understand this command as the thing that a slave would receive, because you're not that. I call you my friends. And the reason I call you my friends is that I have made known to you what's going on. We're together in this. In fact, what he says is, all the things that I hear from Father, I make known to you. There's this continuous flow. And Father is speaking, and I'm letting you know. It comes in and it goes right to you. I'm your friend in this. I'm your friend. Because Father's speaking, and I'm just making it known to you. That's what he's saying. We're called to be in the know. It's not a command obeyed per se, but a command that reveals the plan and empowers the friend. That's the nature of the commands that Jesus has for you and for me. So that's the center of John 15, but we'll start back up at the top. Jesus speaking, I am the vine, the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser, the farmer. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Let me just tell you something. If there's not fruit, it's a problem. Because the Father has eyes on fruit. Mom's word said that Father, you're the treasure of the ages, and I did it so we could be one. He's about something. Time is for something. Time was created for a purpose. It's sons and daughters. It's union with God. And if we're not doing that, we're missing the point of time. Okay? That's really what he said to Mom. That's what he's saying here. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it or cleanses it. Either way, you could translate it either way. So that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean or pruned via the word that I have spoken to you. So let me just say to you, let me give you the example. Okay, so here's Mary, and we keep talking about this, but it's worth talking about. Mary's going to say, be it done unto me according to your word. And that's true. It's legit. But let me say, she already had faith. She was a faithful woman. Before she even got there, she was faithful. Before the angel showed up, she was faithful. When the angel shows up, she makes some faith-filled choices. And the choice is, be it done unto me according to your word. Notice that when she says that, literally the word cuts off from her, prunes many possible futures. She could have just been what do you call the most beautiful girl? Oh, there's a competition. What's that? Coralie. Yeah, Coralie. That was the word I was looking for. She could have been Miss Nazareth, okay? She could have been Miss Nazareth and most gracious and, but nope, clip. She's not Miss Nazareth, okay? She's not, Miss Israel, clip. She's not even regular anything, clip.
She's not even considered respectable anymore.
What's that?
She's not even considered respectable.
She could be considered respectable, clip. No respectability. Clip. You see, when she said, be it done unto me according to your word, there was a pruning that happened. You see, Jesus said it right there. You are already clean, pruned, via the word which I have spoken to you. Let me just say something to you. When you say yes to him, clip, a bunch of possibilities go away. And his purpose and plan is the thing that keeps on.
The path becomes more narrow.
The path does become more narrow wherever you say yes. And I'm going to tell you the reason he tells you his word is to narrow your path. To do the very best for you he can. To be the best friend to you he knows how to be. The things I hear from Father I give to you. It's friendship that is being expressed in the commands of your Lord. Understand this. She agreed not with all the possibilities, but with whatever he said. Then she became impregnated with fruitfulness. Understand that. Now, she could have been Miss Nazareth, okay? But all of those other things, she could have been respectable. All of those things got clipped, and instead she became pregnant with eternal purpose. And the same is true for you. When your friend says to you, here's what I'm thinking, this is what Father's saying. When you say yes to that, you clip off all respectability and possibility and become pregnant with the purposes and the fruitfulness of God. Because Father's eye is on fruitfulness, and he's for you and for your fruitfulness. You see, we don't really know how to measure things very well, but Father does. Father knows how to measure, and he measures by fruitfulness.
Because you
And-
can't be a little bit pregnant.
But there's no such thing as a little pregnant. You're either in or out, one or the other. Okay, going forward. Okay, so I just want to remind you, so this verse 1 through 3, you are clean. You're pruned. You're on your trajectory. So remain. Remain. Now, NASB calls it abide, which is fine. Sometimes you can see it translated continue. That's great too. The basic notion is stay. Remain. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Remaining is a big deal. I'll read you the verse. Remain, abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me. Remaining is a big deal. It takes faith, and it takes faith over time. Remain. Let me tell you something. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. Ask Abraham. Ask Noah. Ask David. Ask Mary. Ask people of faith of any time or season. Remaining takes faith and time. And it's important. Remain. 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 I'm the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Nothing. This word right here, it means no, not one thing kind of feel, okay? Not even one, okay? Now, she could have been Miss Nazareth, but that wouldn't be anything. She could have fruitfulness, and all the rest of everything got cut off. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a couple of Greek translation things, okay? But let me say to you, take whatever you want out of that, but I'm going to explain. There's words in the Greek for if, and then there's words that are like if ever, okay? And it's a slightly different feel. This, and to me, it's like a whenever, if ever, whenever, okay? In the Greek, the difference between if ever or whenever, even sometimes whatever, can be the same word, okay? But the sense of it is not just if, it's if ever or whenever, okay? It's that sense, okay? And so I point it out because it gives a slightly different feel to the translation to me, okay? Whenever anyone does not abide in me, he's thrown away as a branch and dries up, and they gather them and they cast them into the fire and they're burned. So let's talk. I said all of that because we're going to see it a bunch more in this chapter, okay? So remain, you and me, I and you. That's necessary for fruitfulness. Mary couldn't just be pregnant on the odd months, okay? She kind of had to be pregnant and remain. Okay, do you understand what I'm trying to say? You stick to it. Remain in me and I in you. This indicates union. I want to just say something to you. If this is in this, and this is in this, then these are one. Okay? Understand that. Remain in me, I remain in you. We are one. There's a union and a significant friendship that he's speaking about here. Remain indicates union. There is no fruitfulness, there is no offspring without union. The Spirit of God came upon Mary and impregnated her. There was a union that happened, and it doesn't happen with, the fruitfulness doesn't happen without the union. Remaining takes place in time, and thus it requires patience. Next verse. Whenever you abide in me, and my words abide in you. Let's just check that out before we go on. We know where we're going to get to, but let's just check it out. Whenever you abide, and my words abide in you. Notice, or remain. You know, we're going to get to keep in a minute, but I've always said to you, what does keep mean? Well, keep means keep, right? And this is the same sense. Let my word remain in you, okay? When he says something, you let it sit there. You don't get rid of it. You don't reject it. You don't toss it away. You hold on to it. Why? Because remaining takes time, guys. And so the word is going to sit there for a while. For Mary, you could say it was 9 months, and that's true. But you could also say it was 9 months and 30 years. That would also be true. You know, she dealt with garbage from the neighborhood for 30 years. Beyond that, 30 some odd years. Who knows, maybe the rest of her life too, I don't know, okay? But she dealt with the junk of the neighborhood saying, yeah, for decades. Whenever you abide in me and my words, my rhemas, abide in you, ask whatever you wish. This translation, it's really a neat one. If you look at it, it literally is, whenever you are wanting whatever, ask. And that's a command. Whenever you are wanting whatever, ask. If, whenever you are wanting whatever, ask, and it will be done for you. The notion here is whenever you're abiding in me, and my rhemas are abiding in you, ask whatever. Whenever, ask whatever. And then it goes on and it says, it'll be done for you. The literal translation is, it will be becoming. And then the next word is you, but it's in the dative. In the dative, for pronouns, could be a number of different things. It depends on interpretation. And so one of the tricky things in Greek is that there are interpretations, and moving those interpretations into English requires a choice if you're going to only do one. So I don't do one. I give them all to you, okay? And so that often when I'm retranslating for you, I'm helping you see the breadth of what is being said so that we're not narrowly understanding. There's another one that we're going to get to that's very important here that we'll get to it, but it will be done for you. It will be becoming to you. It will be becoming for you. It will be becoming by you. In fact, you'll be the instrument of it coming. It will be becoming in you. All of those things are very appropriate in the understanding of the dative pronoun in the Greek. And so let me just say, abide, remain, stay in me, stay in my word, and then whenever you want whatever, ask, and stuff in and through you will be happening because I'll make it happen, says Father.
Hang in there, then tell me what you want.
That's right. Hang in there and tell me what you want. And stay in the place of me. It's this, remember, this the union. In me, it's union. Stay there, and whatever you ask, whenever, it'll be becoming for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit. Now let me say something to you. What he's saying here is, Daddy God is really excited about this and glorified and made huge by this. So don't think that he doesn't want to do this. He wants to do this. That's what he's saying. He really wants to do it. So whenever, whatever, yes, you're in, abiding, remaining in his word, remaining in his rhema, that is, in him, remaining in his rhema, ask whatever, whenever. And Father is not just like willing, well, okay. He's glorified by this that you bear much fruit. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about verb tenses now in the Greek. And there's a number of different verb tenses, present. And typically present really is very present. So, like Stephen is sitting in that chair. Okay, it's a very present notion in the Greek. It's not vague about the timing. It's like literally right now he is sitting in that chair. Okay, that's present. And then there's like a perfect, and then there's an aorist, and I'll give you the aorist could be interpreted as a simple past. It's not appropriate many times. I could say, Stephen sat in that chair. And so then you are aware that at some point in the past that happened. I could also say Stephen has sat in that chair. And that kind of makes you feel like it did happen, and maybe it's even still happening. Okay, it's like he has seated himself and now he's still there-ish. I have seated myself, okay? And that's called the perfect tense, okay? It speaks to something, yes, that happened in the past, but it impacts the present in a significant way, okay? That's the perfect tense. The aorist, go ahead. Yeah, sort of, yeah. The aorist is a slightly different kind of a beast. And it could be the past. But you can see that many times, and I'll show you this as we go along, it should be understood instead as the indefinite. In the sense that I could say, Stephen sits in that chair. Now, that's not telling you when that happened. It tells you that, probably there's some habit of it happening. And maybe he's sitting there now. Maybe next week he'll sit in that chair too, okay? He sits in that chair. There's something about Stephen in that chair that go together, okay? He sits in that chair. Do you see what I'm trying to say? That's the aorist, okay? And this verb right here that we're talking about, my Father is glorified by this, is that tense and that understanding. It's not like, well, once in a great while, boop, 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 or, hey, there was a time, Father was glorified by this one time, okay? That's not what it's saying. It's a fact of the nature and character of God that he is glorified when you bear fruit. Okay, so understand the aorist and that perspective. It's an indefinite time. It's not to be understood as a historical fact or even an ongoing present fact or a future fact. It's almost like an eternal fact. It's without specific time. Stephen sits in that chair. Jesus lives. Well, yeah. You could say Jesus died. That was a historic fact. You could say Jesus lived. That was a historic fact. Jesus had lived. Okay? That means that it happened up until a point. Jesus has lived up until maybe now. Okay? Jesus is living. Okay, that means right now he is alive. We're not sure what's going to happen before. Jesus lives in this sense of the reality that is beyond reality. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Beyond time, beyond a specific moment. This is the aorist, and I want you to understand it because we're going to have some more verbs in that I want you to see and understand rightly. Okay? Great. So, let me just say, my Father is glorified. That's how he is. It's a fact of eternity. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit. And I didn't really like and so prove to be my disciples because some of those words aren't even in there, but it is, and so shall be becoming disciples. And again, that's that dative 2x4 in me. Okay? So the notion here is my Father's glorified in your becoming and your future becoming. It's a constant becoming of my disciple. Okay? Yeah, that's right. It's this constantly becoming the disciple. So Father and glorified is not just a past or present or future, but it's a statement of the fact of the nature of how Father is. He is glorified by your fruitfulness at all times, indeed eternally. And so let me say to you, when you sit and remain in the nature, in him, and when you sit and remain, and his words sit and remain in you, then whatever you want, whenever you ask it, Father's super excited about it because he's glorified constantly and eternally by answering those things and by seeing fruitfulness happen in your life. Okay, so that's what this means, and I'm just saying it all the way out loud for you. Okay, next verses. Sometimes the NASB translates the aorist into the perfect because it's bad grammar to turn it into just a simple past, but the better grammar is to use the present in this indefinite sort of a sense, okay? And so I've changed it for you. I crossed it out and fixed it because it's a far better understanding as we go forward. Just as the Father loves me, I love you also. Remain in my love. Okay, so now let me just say, we were just talking about fruitfulness and the eagerness of the Father to pour out whatever it is you ask, whenever it is you ask it, when you're abiding in him, and his rhema is abiding in you. And he goes directly to the sense of love. You see, love and union are connected. He's not changing his topic. It's the same topic. But from the aorist standpoint, let's understand it. Just as Father always, eternally, he loves. That's just who he is. That's just his nature. Just as Father loves me, Jesus says, so also I love you. So remain. Again, the aorist here. Could be mandatory, and it is, but it's also the aorist, this indefinite time frame. Remain in my love. It's a character of remaining in the love of Jesus. All right. Next verse. Whenever you may be keeping my commands, you shall be remaining in my love. So again, let's understand commands rightly. We've stolen from what comes next in order to make sure we understand it right here. But let me remind you that these commands are an expression of his love for you. This command is not something that you must do. It's an expression of his friendship that you actually want to do, because it's an expression of his friendship and because it's the best thing for you and for Father and for Jesus and for everybody, in fact. Understand this. Understand it rightly. Whenever you may be keeping my commands, you shall be remaining in my love. Just as I have kept, now that is actually in the perfect tense, which is why I just noted that. I have kept my Father's commands and am remaining in his love. Okay? So there's different tenses, and they're legit when you rightly translate them, okay? These things I have spoken to you so that my joy may be remaining in you and that your joy may be being fulfilled. Remember, John said, my joy is fulfilled when I connect my disciples to the disciple to make them into Jesus' disciples. I'm the bride, the friend of the bridegroom is happy. Okay, that's what he's saying, and this is that exact teaching in Jesus. I'm telling you some stuff, these things I've spoken to you, for our mutual joy and the fulfillment of your joy. And this is my command. Actually, the truth is, these are my commands. And I've always read the word that there sort of as an indefinite pronoun in the sense that it's just a renaming. This is my command, that. This is the thing. But it's actually not that. It's in order that. Okay, so let's read it rightly, okay? This is my command, in order that you be loving one another, just as I, aorist, constantly, always, it's my nature, I love you. Okay, so this is my command, in order that you be loving one another, just as I eternally love you. Okay, so I feel like I'm pouring out a lot and a lot of details even, but my points are this. You get to stay in his love, and his commands are an expression of his love. And your desire to do his commands, it's not based on slavery or his demand or else. It's because of joy, and it's because of glory that you get to participate in his love, which is his command, which then you get to ask whatever you want whenever, and he does it. Okay, so that's the whole big picture.
It's where my heart.
It's where the heart is. And this is, I want us to understand it rightly, and so that's why I give you all the details, okay? And then he says, this is my command, all of this up above, in order that you be loving one another, just as I love you. So notice this, that loving one another is intimately connected with fruitfulness. No, loving one another is intimately connected with fruitfulness, which is intimately connected with union, which is intimately connected with glory, and thus with joy. I want to show you one other thing, and that is this. Notice here, this is my command, in order that. I want you to notice that the command is for a purpose, and it's so that you. In other words, the command enables you. It's in order that. The command makes it possible for you to do a thing, okay? In order that. So his command, and let me tell you, that's how his commands always are. They are literally two things, both of which are an expression of union and friendship. His commands are two things: revelation and enablement. So when he says, hey, Wendy, love your neighbor by bringing her a pie, or Stephen, love your neighbor by shoveling his driveway, or whatever. He literally is giving you a revelation of a thing, and he's giving you the divine enablement to accomplish an eternal thing in the process, okay? So to call it a command, it's legit, okay? I'm not saying it's not a command, because it is. But it's almost better for our understanding to think of it as a divine opportunity to be connected into the vine, to be flowing with a thing that God is doing.
If I walk up to Stephen and I do like this, Stephen, give me your foot.
Yeah, up he goes. It's a revelation and a divine enablement. It's both. All right, so I'm just going to point out, this is my command in order that you be loving one another. And then he goes to that word. Okay, this is one of our first 3 verses about friendship in John 15. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. Okay, so again, just back up real quick. This is my command in order that you can love. I'm giving you these commands so that you have the capacity to love one another, even as I love you eternally, indefinitely. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. This is not arrogant. This is not a self-centered statement. He's not, saying, "Oh, I'm the guy that dies for everybody." He's not what he's saying. Yes, he's saying that, but that's not really his primary motive in saying it. What he's saying is, I'm inviting you into this love. Notice that the verse just before that says, my command in order that you can love. Okay? So he's inviting you into this love. And he says, look, greater love has no one than this, than that he lays down his life for his friends. To be a friend of God, you get to do this by laying your life down for him. To be a friend of many, you can lay your life down for others. I felt it significant, and so I'll just say it to you. This is mathematics terms. But love is a unary operator, okay? I'll give you a binary operator is like multiplication or addition. 1 plus 2 equals 3. That's a binary because there are 2 things that get added together. You got a 1 and a 2, and that gives you a 3. That's a binary operator. But a unary operator is something where there's just one thing, one argument. For example, the negative in front of -5 is a unary operator. It takes the 5 and turns it from a +5 to a -5. Okay, that's what but it's a unary operator. There's other unary operators that are a little bit more obscure in mathematics. Okay. For example, the inversion. So if anything on or in a circle is a set, the opposite of that, which is a unary operator, takes just one thing, is everything outside the circle. So that's the idea. But love is a unary operator. That means that you can love. It doesn't require somebody else to do anything. You can love. It's a darn good thing that love is a unary operator because Jesus did it. Father started the process and he said, I'm going to love and I'm going to do this thing, and he loved. When we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, right? The whole purpose of love is to go beyond. It's a unary operator. Love is not a mutual thing, necessarily. Now, it can be. And that's where friendship comes in. That's where union comes in. But love is a unary operator. And so what Jesus says is, greater love has no one than this, than that one lay down his life for his friends. For God and for those around you. You get to lay your life down. Oops, went the wrong way. I wonder, I felt confused. Okay, next verse. So remember, greater love has no man than this, that he lays his life down for friends. And now he says, this is how you can be my friends. So this is what he says. You are my friends whenever you do or create whatever I command you. So let me remind you that whenever we do or create whatever he's speaking, we are his friends. Why? You see, guys, he's being our friend by saying it. He says, Stephen, you can go and shovel the driveway over there. And when he's doing it, he's revealing the purpose of God, and he's revealing and releasing the empowerment of God to accomplish a thing. So he's being friend. And when we do it, whenever we do whatever he says, we're completing the friendship. We're agreeing to it. We're coming into alignment. We're saying, I'm with you in this. Understand that makes us a friend. He wants to be really clear, so the very next scripture says, no longer do I call you slaves, for the slave doesn't know what his master's up to. I've called you friends, for the things that I hear from my Father, I make known to you. Again, notice the wonderful aorist in that last phrase. All the things that I heard, have heard, hearing, will hear, all the things that I hear, I make known to you. He's not hiding anything. He's releasing it to you. Not just information, but empowerment. You look at it, it's not a statement of control, but a statement of enablement. It's not a statement just simply of do the thing, but it's an actual revelatory reality. He's releasing revelation and enablement in his command. This is the nature of Jesus. A fact of how things are. That's another way to look at the aorist, is it's sort of like a fact. It's just the way it is. What I hear, I tell you. What Father says to me, I tell you. That's what he's saying.
You always unpack it for us.
Yeah.
My iPhone came with no instructions. You're going to give me instructions so that I can see how to stay on the path.
And that's the friendship, okay? He's better than Siri, okay? He's there to reveal and empower you to accomplish the things that he has for you. It's not control, but it's an assumption of a coherent set of motivations. Let me just show that to you, okay? Listen. Friendship. So God has just called Stephen to shovel his neighbor's driveway, and I show up. Okay, I'm going to say something to you. The friendship I have with Stephen means I'm going to be shoveling too. Okay? I'm not going to demand that Stephen sit down and welcome me into his home or something and serve me an eggnog. An eggnog. That's exactly what I was looking for, an eggnog. Get me an eggnog. No. See, I'm his friend, he's my friend. Yes, I come to his house because he's my friend. I do what he's doing because I'm his friend. Do you see what I'm... I grab the shovel, and together, and maybe after, hopefully Wendy's made the eggnog while we're shoveling. I don't know. But the bottom line is, that there's a friendship that is cooperative, and there's a communion of motivation that is presumed in the friendship. If Father is saying it, boy, oh boy, we're into it. If Father is saying it, Jocelyn and I want to do that thing. We don't even have to think about it. We just know it. Okay? If we could just figure out whatever it is Father's up to, that's the thing we're going to be doing right now. There's nothing else we even have the slightest desire to do. That's because there's this mutuality of friendship that has occurred. So what Jesus is saying, whenever you do or create whatever I command you, then you're my friends. It's not a statement of control, but a statement of enablement. I've called you friends for all things which I hear from Father. I make known to you. It's a statement of revelation. That's what a command is. A statement of revelation and enablement. And the assumption is that there's a coherent set of motivations. I get to to Stephen's house. And I want his neighbor loved too. Okay, now I didn't even know that I wanted his neighbor loved until 10 seconds ago when Stephen said to me, this guy needs our help. And I know I can love this man this way. And then suddenly in my heart, I'm ready. Oh my goodness, let's do the best shoveling job that's ever been done. Okay, why? Because there's this coherent set of motivations. We're going to love this guy. We're going to love him. There's a connectivity, heart-to-heart connectivity that's real. This is friendship. This is friendship. Now, I just want, the next verse is so beautiful, and this is part of why I gave you the aorist teaching, so you would understand it, okay? This is Jesus, and he says, we're doing this together. I have divine revelation and enablement because we are coherently together in this notion, okay? That's what he's saying. And the next verse says this, you do not choose me, but I choose you. Notice this is in the aorist. It's not, oh, one day ago I chose you. Not, oh, well, I have chosen you up until now. It's not, I am choosing you. It's not, I will choose you. It's all. I choose you. I choose you. I appoint you that you may go and bear fruit, and your fruit may remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he shall be giving to you. 2, 4 by in you. These things I command in order that you may be loving one another. So here's his verb, and I want you to hear it. God's saying to you, I'm your friend. I always choose you. I always appoint you. I always release you and give you so that you may be loving. Okay, so let's look at this. This is the nature of friendship. He chooses you, he appoints you. You can go and bear fruit, and your fruit can remain. It's so that you can ask anything of Father, he'll give it to you. He does all of these commands so that you will be loving. Okay, so we're going to move to that. It's been scattered throughout. It's just been in and out of this love thing. He chooses you, he appoints you. He does all these things so you'll be loving. That's so important because God is love. Okay, God is love. The nature of God is the expression. The nature of God is that the expression of fruit is essential. Remain in me, remain in my love, and love. He's not mixing two messages. Remaining is equal to union, which is equal to the only way to be fruitful, which is equal to love one another, with the same love that characterizes Father. You see, every time that Jesus hears Father say something, he says it to you. And every time that Father says something, it's love. And every time the Father says love, and Jesus says it, he hears it, and so he says it to you, you have the capacity to become one with him, friendship. Thus, you become love. This is all one story, all one chapter, all one message from Jesus. Do you have a comment, Dad? All right. I backed up because I need to transition real quick. You guys are great. You listen to me preach for a whole hour and you stay right on it. You're amazing people. You're really awesome. I appreciate you. Okay, I've been preaching for an hour and I got eyeballs and I appreciate who you are. Okay, I bless you. I'm going to try to go quick, all right? So Jesus goes on from there and he calls Matthew, also called Levi, and some of he's a tax collector, and he says, follow me. And so Jesus then is reclining at the table in the house, and behold, many tax collectors and sinners were dining with Jesus and his disciples. And the Pharisees say, wow, you shouldn't be doing that. Why are you doing this? And Jesus said this. It's not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire compassion and not sacrifice, for I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. So Jesus intentionally called tax collectors and sinners. He actually aimed at them, okay? Let me just tell you, tax collectors are politically taboo people, okay? So the tax collector, he's a turncoat. He's a traitor, right? He's working for the Romans, or maybe he's working for the top Jew, or maybe, I don't even know. He's working for somebody that's working for the Romans. So he's a turncoat. And he makes good money doing it. If you look at it, Matthew had a big house and he had a big enough home to bring many people into it. So he made good money being a trader, a turncoat, okay? But he's politically incorrect and not according to good politics. Jesus pursued those. You should too. He also hung out with sinners. That's just people that are religiously incorrect or religiously unpopular. Jesus pursued those. You should too. That's the people he loved. Tax collectors and sinners. Notice he also included someone who conspired against the Romans. So, I mean, all the spectrums of all of the things, all that's good. Love one another even as I have loved you. The whole purpose is to love. Fruitfulness, love. Got it? Union, love. Fruitfulness, out of union. This is what Jesus was quoting, Hosea 6:6. For I delight in compassion rather than sacrifice, and in the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. What he's saying here is really quite clear. There's only two general covenants. There's the covenant of law and the covenant of grace. And what he's saying is, I'm not into the covenant of law. That's what he's saying. Look at it. I delight in compassion. You could say mercy, but both of those are loving kindness. All of that's in that word compassion. I desire compassion, loving kindness, rather than sacrifice. What sacrifices are we talking about? Well, legal sacrifices. The sacrifices of, the Mosaic law, okay? I would rather do love and compassion and mercy than the rules about sacrifice. That's what he's saying. And in the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. Listen, I'm into you knowing me and people knowing me. Not the letter of the law, the rules about how to get clean, quote unquote. That's what he's saying. And Jesus was saying to the Pharisees, who were all about obeying the law and then doing the right sacrifices and the right burnt offerings and the right times. That's what he's saying. I'm not into that. I'm into compassion and knowing God. That's what he's saying. Jesus was talking about it through Hosea. This is another rendition of the of the Levi Matthew calling. Many tax collectors there were dining with Jesus, for there were many of them, and they were following him. Okay, there are many, and they were following him. Down below in the Luke section, it says Levi gave a big reception for him in his house. It's a great crowd of tax collectors and other people, other undesirables. Okay, you could have said that. That's what these things mean. Tax collector is an undesirable. Sinner, undesirable. Can I tell you something? Go after the tax collectors and sinners. Go after the undesirables. That's called loving one another. Now, there's a lot of people out there that don't think they need it. That's not what we're after. Now, did the Pharisees need Jesus? Just as much as anybody else. They just didn't want Jesus. The tax collectors and sinners, the undesirables, they know that they're needy. Go after them. Love one another, even as I have loved you. Jesus, in another couple of sections here, says, what shall I compare this generation? They're complaining about how we live our lives, okay? Behold, John came neither eating nor drinking, they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a gluttonous man and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Let me tell you something. He was a friend. Let me tell you the truth. This man, your Savior, was a friend of the undesirables. He literally was a friend of them. And he says, wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. In the Luke rendition, wisdom is vindicated by all her children. You see, the deeds of God, which are the only deeds Jesus did, end up with the children of God, which is the fruitfulness that Father is looking for. So we get back to John 15. Greater love has this, no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. You're my friends if you do what I reveal and enable you to do, what I command you to do. No longer do I call you slaves, because everything that Father says, everything I hear, I make known to you. You don't have to think that Jesus is hiding stuff on you. He's given it to you so you can live in its context. He's constantly doing that, and there's a purpose for that. We're called to be in the know. It's not control, but a command that reveals the plan and empowers the friend to love and to become love. Let me tell you something. There's fruit out there for you. And I'll tell you that most of the fruit is the undesirables. That's where the fruitfulness was. Now, Jesus did save some of the Pharisees. That's true. But I'm going to tell you where the fruit is. Low-hanging fruit is on the undesirables. I do this so that you can love even as I loved you.
In the 60s, there were two labels. People could be warm fuzzies, or they could have cold pricklies. And Jesus looks past the cold pricklies and presents the warm fuzz.
And he loved. And let me just say something. Jesus did this thing. And he gives you the opportunity to do the same. Lay down your life for your friends. Remember, love is a unitary operator. You get to love. They don't have to do anything for you to love. It's a unitary operator. You love. And then they get an opportunity. And they can love back. Great, union happens. But in the process, you become the thing that is God. I choose you. I appoint you. And you become love. Amen. Again, I appreciate you all. Love you very much. I thank you for your patience and for your absorbency. Grace to you and much love to you. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Sorry for stealing your coffee, Dad. He stayed awake the whole time anyway. He didn't need it.
It was worth it. It was so good.
He didn't need coffee.